At the end of every unit, your teacher has the chance to teach a lesson about other lessons and their context to enhance. But what do you suppose our teacher has us do? He skips a lesson and makes it present in digital LEQ. Allocution needs historical evidence, reason that can cooperate in events. A complex thesis that Dr. John P. Irish would admire. Then we drop this screencast like a single that is fire. Student created screencasts for you to like, subscribe, and share. We know you had all the John Green and Steam Heimer you can bear. If we have the most views by 10 p.m. Eastern on the 5th day, we earn 500 bonus points with virtually guarantees an A. Without much more fanfare or ado, we present our digital LEQ.
Some major changes in labor migration that took place in 1450 to 1750, the early modern era, are the increase in growth of trade consisting of goods, slaves, and more for varying reasons, based on the demand of goods or the needs at that time. For example, in the triangular trade, African tribes would kidnap members of other tribes to trade to Europe for manufactured goods such as guns. Most of those slaves were then sent to the Caribbean to replace the slaves that died of overwork or harsh conditions from agricultural labor. Slaves would be sent to mines to gather raw material or farm for cash crops such as sugar, tobacco, and more. Those goods harvested in Northern America would then be sent to Europe to manufacture goods like the guns that were sent to Africa, bringing the whole cycle to the beginning again. The triangular trade was a key factor to labor migration, for it encompassed the movement of people between regions for the sake of labor. Another major event that took place was the Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange, much like the triangular trade, was an exchange of goods including livestock and people between Europe, Africa, and Asia to the Americas. Although, in addition to all the goods that were being spread and shared amongst the regions, disease and sickness such as smallpox, influenza, and more were also brought and quickly spread to these new and foreign lands. Other examples of change in labor migration are industrial labor in China because of the high demand of silk. Another is slavery in Mughal India, forced into cotton production, and slavery in Russia, where they were forced into farming and settling into Siberia. The continuity in labor migration during 1450 to 1750. After the cycle of trade and labor began, it simply continued and increased as time went on. The continuation of slavery within Africa had now spread to the Mediterranean and Indian Ocean and increased since then. In addition, the interaction between the Western and Eastern Hemisphere stayed contained through the continuation of labor while the global exchange of goods intensified. An example of this would be the flow of silver from the Spanish colonies in the Americas to purchase goods originating in Asia. Markets and other trade routes began to sprout and flourished into Afro-Eurasia through the development and use of ships, which made transporting goods and slaves much easier and efficient. Also, despite the rise and fall of hierarchy in European regions, this led to labor systems, also known as slaves, to stay bound to that lifestyle. An example of this is when the Mongol Empire fell, causing Russia to develop a system called serfdom, which entailed slaves to continue in forced labor but serve the nobles to keep them wealthy and significant. Their labor would aid in acquiring more land and obtaining power and respect for the royals. This would also continue to increase as Russia began to expand through Europe.
Labor migration that went on from 1450 to 1750 led to the development of the Atlantic Trade Network, Atlantic slave trade, as well as slave systems and the rise of Europe. It also allowed for the spread of world religions throughout the world.